Okay, let's try this again. I've been recording audio for like the last 5 minutes, and I paused it to edit something, and when I went to go back and edit it, it actually recorded no audio at all. So hopefully this go around, there's audio. Okay, I was talking about Path of Exile 2. Basically, I feel like I put more hours in Path of Exile 2 than I have Diablo 4. Have I actually? I cannot be super sure about that because I had it on Blizzard and then I ended up buying it on Steam, blah, blah, blah. Basically, what I wanted to get across is my experience while playing Path of Exile 2. When it first launched, I wasn't super into it, and eventually I ended up getting it and getting my friends the game as well, and we all played a good little bit for a good little time. I think I've only ever actually seen maps in Path of Exile 2 one league, and I don't even really think I played that league deep enough or heavy enough to really understand how the mapping mechanics worked, because not long after that, the other league came out. Now, from that point forward, for about 2 leagues or so after that, I ran into this problem where whenever I was creating a character and getting to the point to where I could advance my class would end up turning into this issue where I wasn't really able to get my next ascendancy. And that became just a reoccurrent problem where I just could not get my ascendancy. And I went looking around for message boards and guides and stuff for help, and pretty much everywhere that I went to look for help, I was constantly told, you just have to rerun the ascendancy. You have to close your game, reopen your game, rerun the ascendancy. You have to rerun all the ascendancies in order to restart what it was you were doing. It was a lot of stuff that just felt like a waste of time. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, right? I definitely don't want to do that. I just don't, right? I was super frustrated that the game wasn't working the way that it was intended to. And because of that, it would constantly keep me away from playing the rest of the season. So there were several seasons that I never really got to experience the actual mapping experiences of because the game simply just did not work. And that wasn't the only bug that I was facing while experiencing the game. It just happened to be one of the main ones at the time for 2 separate seasons. But I came back because my friend was telling me about how the monk had came out with some new subclass and or a whole set of new powers and things that seemed like it could be really exciting. Personally, I avoid the monk in pretty much all games because the monk is usually categorized as this generally overpowered character. In Path of Exile 2, I hear more about the monk than anything from the beginning of the game up until this point where the monk got significant buffs and people started talking about stuff in regards to how when the league came out, when the season came out, they ended up immediately nerfing the monk as well as a handful of other things within the game. And I thought, okay, well, if they're nerfing things within the first week and it's just a substantial amount of things that are being changed and debuffed as the game goes on, I was like, I don't want to keep playing the game until I know for sure like what's actually going to be happening. So I took a break from the game, came back to it, and started playing again. And as you can see, I make it to probably Act 4 before I get burnt out and just tired of the game overall and just haven't played the rest of it since. Supposedly, Path of Exile 1 is coming out with a new league by like next week. I don't even know if I'm going to play that. I've personally just been taking a break from playing anything with the seasons or markets or much of anything just because I've been burnt out of it all. And because of that, I've been playing a lot of different games, which is how I've gotten to this point now. But uh, to kind of give you an idea, this is basically my experience with Path of Exile 2. And because of that, I wanted to actually talk about what it is that I've experienced with this specific season so far. Okay, now that all of that has been covered, this season I feel like has felt significantly different from any of the other seasons, in my opinion, right? I've been doing a substantial amount of damage. It feels like I am just blowing enemies over easily with little to no issue or pressure. And I'm not entirely sure why that would be the case. I don't know if maybe there was just a general buff to a whole bunch of things or a debuff to a whole bunch of enemies. I'm not really sure, but I feel extremely strong. And I'm obviously following a build that somebody else has made, but I've just been blowing through the game at this pace, and it's been feeling really rewarding and really fun to be able to just play the game and cut through everything while moving. The build that I'm following is pretty much done already as by the point that I hit, I've already unlocked the entirety of the build. So at this point, all it is just getting better gear and continuously pushing through maps, unless, of course, I decide to change builds. But even with that being said, it's been a little bit of a different experience because for the most part, I feel like I kind of grow in power and strength as I play the game, but I also feel like I don't really get access to the stuff that I would really want until about the time I'm in maps or close enough to maps. And in this case, it's like the complete opposite. It feels like I'm a powerhouse by like 30, maybe 34, and I just can't be stopped. Now, I have died a few times, but it's kind of through like reckless things that I've been doing in the game, whereas my overall general experience in the game has been me just being fairly overpowered, and that's been a whole bunch of fun in my personal opinion. So, I do enjoy that. Well, I've noticed some things too while trying out a few different characters very lightly in terms of being able to swap weapons on the fly, which therefore lets you swap abilities on the fly, which feels so smooth and so nice when you're trying to utilize two completely different skills in order to get something completely different happening. I've seen and slightly utilized being able to have a travel ability while using some other character's weapon in my offhand, while being able to use my main ability in my main hand, and vice versa, or having it set up to where I have a completely different weapon in my offhand that controls a completely different set of skills, while my main hand has some other skills. So I've been able to utilize weapon sets this league, and that's been pretty fun and exciting. I've actually genuinely enjoyed that. But as I was playing through and cutting through the content, eventually I was just slowing down and getting burnt out. I didn't feel like doing that race. I didn't feel like playing through and catching up or trying much of anything. In fact, I ended up just taking a break and moving over to a completely different game. Something about the general pacing, or maybe it's just me being like blasted with all this content from Path of Exile over like the last 2 years has really just burnt me out from the game. I've actually been trying out other games that are ARPGs that I haven't really given a chance before, and trying out a completely different set of games as well. I've even gotten to speak to some people, like complete strangers, who are telling me that they usually play Path of Exile 2 a lot, but this league specifically, they've kind of just felt pushed off from it and haven't taken breaks from it and haven't really been tuned into it too much, saying that the season felt ruined to them, like it wasn't really that fun experience that they had way back when. And to be honest, it almost feels like that to me, but I'm not entirely sure why. I don't think it's the damage boost or anything that I've gotten into the game, because I mean, I love being stronger than what I was last season. It's completely refreshing, but I don't know, maybe just blasting through everything in this moment just doesn't feel all that great to me. Maybe I'll feel a little bit better when I try a different character. Maybe when I spend a little bit more time away from the game, I'll feel a little more locked in and wanting to do more. But in this moment, I just feel like I'm not having as much fun in Path of Exile 2, and I can't really explain why. But because of that, I just decided to take a break, and I don't really have much else to talk about in regards to my experiences with it. So I'll probably spend a little bit of extra time just yapping about the character and build that I was working on. So usually what I do for seasons is I play the witch and I play the demon form. I think the demon form is really cool. I really like being able to go into a mode and stay in that mode and utilize it to make my overall power significantly stronger. This go around, I ended up playing a blood mage. In a handful of games, I really enjoy the idea of being able to manipulate blood or utilize blood in order to increase damage or debuff enemies. I think it's a really cool concept. In this specific build that I was following from a YouTuber, we utilize the blood mage's ability to like keep ourselves alive and keep our mana refilled and do more damage, but we're using the same skills that pretty much any other mage would use outside of like the chaos based stuff. It's just lightning and ice, lightning and ice, and there's nothing bad about that because it's pretty simple. It doesn't take a lot of work to actually do, and you actually do pretty crazy damage with it, believe it or not. But for whatever reason, I guess I thought because I would be going a blood mage, maybe I would be able to utilize more blood based attacks, and I'm kind of learning that's just not the case. It's kind of a bummer to me at times when I'm using lightning or I see lightning, and it seems like the end all be all to all builds or damage that people use in Path of Exile, right? I would want anything and everything to be as useful. But then again, I guess it really just depends on how you build and what you use to synergize it with. I mean, I'm glad that there are things that you can use to make yourself a bit stronger and better, like lightning. But maybe I was just getting burnt out from it. And a friend that I usually play with and race alongside with, he was doing his own separate campaign and he was going like the lightning arrow build. And the thing was, that's not even what he wanted to do. He just thought that it would be useful and get him through a good portion of the game, so he decided to run it. And that's what he like solidified himself with. So it was no longer about the idea of having fun, but more so about just getting through the league. And I guess maybe that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like we just needed to get on top of things and finish things quicker before anybody else could. And that felt more so like I was being burnt out from playing the game. And I was just tired of playing it, right? And it felt bad, right? I no longer wanted to. So I ended up uninstalling it and taking a break from it. And maybe in a month or two, I'll come back to it. Or maybe when their next bigger update comes in, I'll come back to it. I'm not sure yet. But it just, so far, it doesn't feel like the league for me. Maybe I'll try a different class for the witch, or maybe I'll try a different character altogether and have a completely different playthrough. But right now in its time playing, it just feels like it's just not the type of game that I would really want to be donating as much time into, as crazy as that is to say, because these kinds of games are like my bread and butter. So yeah, I guess that's my Path of Exile 2 experience so far. I'd probably say I've put about maybe 9 hours worth of gameplay into it total thus far, but I'm not sure. Like for this league, but I'm not sure. Some, I guess, impressions of it. I think the runes are cool. They drop pretty crazy things. I see things like divines and whatnot dropping in my own game while running runes, and I'm not even done with campaign, and I think that that's amazing. But it also feels like a downside because it makes it seem like divines really won't be that rare, meaning that the market would be an absolute mess and grinding would just be so much more than what it would need to be, and just felt like a bummer. So I haven't really been utilizing market much at all, really. I've just been solo self-found gameplay for the most part and just pushing through the game like that. And that's been pretty fun, being able to utilize a build that doesn't really require the market in order to obtain the power that I need to be able to play. Being able to use this power to just burst through bosses and enemies that would usually take me like an extra 4 minutes, an extra 20 minutes, however long to redo a fight or whatever. Being able to burst through them in such a short amount of time has been pretty fun. Being able to utilize a different way to play the game and constantly changing my key mappings to try things that I've never really tried before has been a whole lot of fun. It's just, for whatever reason that I can't really explain, I haven't really been enjoying it, even though it has been fun. So maybe I'll try a completely different build. Maybe I'll try to play with that other friend and have a completely different playthrough where we both try things we never really tried before. But for right now, that's just not something that I'm in a mood to experience. And I guess that's it. I do like listening and watching the videos on new things that I haven't really heard about or seen in a game. I think that's cool. I saw a YouTube short the other day where a guy had some legendary helmet. He put the helmet on and it summoned some spirit who would attack enemies within a vicinity, but it would do it at random. I thought that that was very unique and fun. I thought the idea seemed fun, but to get to that point would take some time, right? So I don't know. But that's been my Path of Exile 2 experience so far. So Yeah. Peace.